The Discovery. In the dusty town of Rustville, where dreams went to die and ambitions rusted alongside old machinery, lived Elias Gerhardt. Known simply as the Mechanic, Elias spent his days tinkering with forgotten contraptions in a workshop that seemed to exist outside of time. The year was 2087, but in Rustville, it might as well have been 1987 or even 1887. Elias wiped the sweat from his brow, the relentless sun beating down on the corrugated metal roof of his workshop. He had just finished repairing Mrs. Henderson's ancient lawnmower, a task that felt as pointless as trying to grow grass in the desert. But it was work, and work meant credits, even if those credits barely kept him fed and sheltered. As he stepped outside to clear his head, something caught his eye. A glint of metal, out of place among the red dust and tumbleweeds. Curiosity piqued, Elias approached the object, half buried in the parched earth. "What in the world?" he muttered, kneeling to brush away the dirt. What he uncovered was unlike anything he'd ever seen. It was clearly mechanical, but the design was alien. Sleek curves and strange angles that seemed to defy conventional engineering. And despite being buried in the harsh desert, its surface was unmarred, as if it had just been manufactured. Elias looked around, half expecting to see someone watching him, but the street was empty as always. With a grunt of effort, he lifted the object. It was surprisingly light for its size, about as big as a large dog. Back in his workshop, Elias cleared a space on his workbench and set the mysterious machine down. Under the bright work lights, he could see it more clearly. It was definitely a robot of some kind, but like no robot he'd ever encountered. Its face, if you could call it that, was a smooth, featureless dome. No visible sensors, no obvious means of locomotion. "Well," Elias said to the empty workshop, "let's see what makes you tick." He reached for his tools, then hesitated. This was alien technology. Who knew what kind of safeguards or traps it might have? But the allure of the unknown, the challenge of understanding this enigmatic machine, was too strong to resist. For hours, Elias worked, carefully probing and examining every inch of the robot. He discovered panels that opened at the lightest touch, revealing circuitry that boggled his mind. It was like looking at the internals of a quantum computer, but even more advanced. As the sun set and the workshop grew dark, Elias realized he had been working nonstop for hours. His stomach growled, reminding him that he hadn't eaten since breakfast. But he couldn't stop now. He was close to something, he could feel it. Finally, in the early hours of the morning, Elias found what he was looking for, a small pulsing crystal buried deep within the robot's core. It glowed with an inner light, a soft blue radiance that seemed to whisper of cosmic secrets. "This must be the power source," Elias murmured, his voice hoarse from hours of silence. With trembling hands, he made the final connections. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a soft hum that seemed to resonate in his bones, the robot came to life. The featureless dome lit up, projecting a holographic face. It was oddly human-like, but with an ethereal quality that was distinctly alien, and when it spoke, its voice was like music. "Greetings, Awakener. I am Zephyr, emissary of the Galactic Concord. You have repaired me, and in doing so, you have altered the fate of your world." Elias stumbled back, knocking over a tray of tools with a cacophonous clatter. What? Who? What are you?" Zephyr's holographic face smiled, an expression both familiar and utterly alien. "I am a peacekeeper, sent to warn your people of a great danger. But my ship was attacked, and I crash-landed here. You have given me new life, Elias Gerhardt, and now I must give your people a chance at survival." Elias's mind reeled. Aliens were real. There was a galactic concord, and apparently, Earth was in danger. It was too much to process. Survival. What danger? What's going on? He managed to ask. Zephyr's expression turned grave. "The Voidborn are coming, Elias. They consume worlds, strip them of resources, and move on. Your Earth is their next target. The Concord tried to warn you, to prepare you, but the Voidborn intercepted me. Now, time is short. Elias felt like he was in a dream, or maybe a nightmare. But I'm just a mechanic, in a forgotten town. What can I do? Zephyr's holographic hand reached out, passing through Elias's chest, but somehow leaving a warm sensation. You are more than just anything, Elias. You repaired technology far beyond your world's current capabilities. You have a gift, a spark of ingenuity that defines your species at its best. And that spark may be what saves your world. As if on cue, a distant rumble shook the workshop. Elias rushed to the window, Zephyr hovering behind him. In the pre-dawn sky, a streak of fire tore across the stars. But it wasn't a meteor. It moved with purpose, descending towards Earth. "They're here," Zephyr said, its musical voice tinged with urgency. "The invasion has begun. Elias Gerhardt, are you ready to stand for your world?" Elias looked at his hands, calloused and oil-stained. Hands that had only ever known the inside of engines and the grip of tools. Could these hands really make a difference against an alien invasion? He thought of Rustville, of a world that had seemed to pass him by, a world he had never felt truly part of. But it was his world, and damned if he was going to let some cosmic bullies take it without a fight. Elias turned to Zephyr, his jaw set with determination. "I don't know if I'm ready, but I know I won't stand by and do nothing. Tell me what we need to do." Zephyr's holographic face beamed with approval. "Then let us begin, Awakener, for the dawn brings not just a new day, but a new era for your people. And it all starts here, in this workshop, with a simple mechanic who dared to fix a broken robot." As the first rays of sunlight crept over the horizon, Elias and Zephyr set to work. The fate of the world rested on the unlikely partnership between a small-town mechanic and an alien peacekeeper. And in the skies above, the Voidborn approached, unaware that their carefully laid plans were about to be disrupted by the indomitable spirit of humanity. First contact. The news spread through Rustville like wildfire, faster than any government broadcast or emergency alert. Aliens were real, and they were here. Not in some distant galaxy, not in grainy footage debated by conspiracy theorists, but right here in their dusty, forgotten town. Elias's workshop became the epicenter of a storm of activity. Mayor Thompson, a portly man more accustomed to dealing with budget shortfalls than extraterrestrial invasions, was the first to arrive. "Gerhardt," he bellowed, bursting through the door. "What in tarnation is going on? There's talk of aliens, and, sweet mother of mercy." The mayor's words died in his throat as he caught sight of Zephyr, hovering serenely next to Elias. The robot's holographic face regarded the new arrival with interest. "Greetings, leader of Rustville," Zephyr said, its melodious voice filling the workshop. "I am Zephyr, emissary of the Galactic Concord. Your world faces grave danger, and we must prepare." Mayor Thompson's face went through a rapid series of emotions: shock, disbelief, fear, and finally, a sort of resigned acceptance. He slumped into a nearby chair, his usual blustery demeanor deflated. "Aliens," he muttered. "Real aliens. In Rustville. If I hadn't given up drinking, I'd swear I was hallucinating." Elias placed a comforting hand on the mayor's shoulder. "I know it's a lot to take in, sir, but we don't have much time. The Voidborn are coming, and we need to prepare the town." Over the next few hours, a steady stream of townsfolk made their way to the workshop. Some came out of curiosity, others out of fear. But as Zephyr explained the situation, a change came over the people of Rustville. The shock and disbelief gave way to something else: determination. Sarah Chen, the high school science teacher, was the first to step forward. "All right, so we're facing an alien invasion. What can we do? What kind of technology are we up against?" Zephyr projected a holographic display, showing sleek, predatory ships. The Voidborn possessed technology far beyond Earth's current capabilities. Energy weapons, force fields, faster than light travel. But they have weaknesses. Their reliance on advanced tech makes them vulnerable to unexpected, simpler solutions. Old Man Jenkins, a veteran who everyone assumed had gone senile years ago, cackled with glee. Ha! Sounds like when we took down those Nazi tanks with good old American ingenuity. Sometimes a wrench in the gears is more effective than a fancy new gun. Elias nodded, an idea forming. Zephyr, you said I repaired tech beyond our capabilities. Can you teach us? Show us how to adapt our technology to fight the Voidborn. Zephyr's holographic face smiled. That is precisely why the Concord chose Earth for protection, Elias. Your species' adaptability and creativity are your greatest strengths. Yes, I can guide you. But the ideas, the innovations, those must come from you. And so, Rustville began to prepare. The high school gymnasium became a makeshift war room. Sarah Chen and her brightest students pored over the scientific knowledge Zephyr shared, looking for ways to adapt it to Earth tech. The local garage became a workshop for retrofitting vehicles with makeshift energy shields, using principles Old Man Jenkins swore were just like the radar jamming we used in '43. Elias found himself at the center of it all, his skill with machines more valuable than ever. He worked tirelessly, adapting Zephyr's knowledge to the tools and tech they had available. Car engines were modified to power energy weapons. Old radio towers were repurposed into early warning systems. But as the days passed and the Voidborn drew nearer, doubt began to creep in. How could their ramshackle defenses possibly stand up to an advanced alien armada? The fear was palpable, hanging in the air like the ever-present desert dust. One evening, as the sun set in a blaze of red and gold, Elias stood outside his workshop, looking up at the stars. Zephyr hovered beside him, its soft glow a stark contrast to the darkening sky. "Do you think we have a chance?" Elias asked, voicing the question that had been gnawing at him. Zephyr was silent for a moment, its holographic eyes scanning the heavens. "In all my travels, Elias, I have never encountered a species quite like humanity. Your tenacity, your ability to find solutions in the most unlikely places, it is remarkable. The Voidborn are powerful, yes, but they are also predictable. They have never faced a foe like you." Elias chuckled, but there was little humor in it. "I'm not sure unpredictable is enough to win a war." "Perhaps not," Zephyr conceded, "but it is enough to change the course of one. The Voidborn expect to find a primitive world, ripe for conquest. Instead, they will find Rustville, armed with a unique blend of Earth ingenuity and Concord technology. That alone may be enough to turn the tide." As if to punctuate Zephyr's words, a brilliant flash lit up the night sky. A streak of fire, much larger than the one Elias had seen days ago, blazed across the stars. The Voidborn's main fleet had arrived. Alarms blared across Rustville, a sound that would have been comical in its small-town quaintness if not for the gravity of the situation. People poured out of their homes, looking to the sky with a mixture of fear and awe. Mayor Thompson's voice crackled over the hastily assembled PA system. "All right, folks, this is it. Remember your training, stick to the plan, and show these cosmic bullies what Rustville is made of." Elias took a deep breath, steadying himself. He looked at Zephyr, then at the townspeople rushing to their positions, determination etched on every face. These were no longer just his neighbors. They were Earth's first line of defense. "Well," he said, reaching for the modified welding torch that now functioned as an energy pistol, "let's go introduce ourselves to the new folks in town." As the first Voidborn ships began to descend, their ominous forms blotting out the stars, Rustville stood ready. It wasn't much. A dusty town armed with jury-rigged weapons and sheer determination. But it was humanity's best hope. And as Elias stepped forward to meet the greatest challenge of his life, he felt something he hadn't experienced in years. Pride. Pride in his skills, pride in his town, and pride in being human. The battle for Earth was about to begin, and it would start here, in the most unlikely of places, with the most unlikely of heroes. Rustville was about to show the galaxy what humanity was truly capable of. The invasion begins. The Voidborn ships descended from the night sky like monstrous birds of prey, their sleek forms reflecting the moonlight. The air crackled with energy as they breached the atmosphere, setting off every makeshift alarm in Rustville. The sound was deafening, a cacophony of sirens, car horns, and the town's ancient air raid siren, unused since the Cold War. Elias stood at the forefront of Rustville's defenders, his modified welding torch-turned energy pistol humming with power. Beside him, Zephyr's holographic form flickered with barely contained energy, ready to interface with and disrupt the Voidborn systems. Remember, Zephyr's melodious voice cut through the chaos. The Voidborn rely heavily on their technology. Disrupt it, and you disrupt them. As if on cue, the first Voidborn ship touched down just outside the town limits. Its hull split open like a blooming flower, and out poured the invaders. They were tall, easily 7 feet, with bodies that seemed to be a fusion of organic matter and advanced machinery. Their eyes glowed an eerie purple, scanning the landscape with cold calculation. For a moment, everything was still. The defenders of Rustville held their breath, fingers hovering over triggers, eyes wide with a mixture of fear and determination. The Voidborn, too, seemed to pause, as if surprised to find resistance in this small, dusty town. Then all hell broke loose. The Voidborn raised their weapons, sleek alien guns that hummed with energy, and fired. Bolts of purple lightning arced towards the town's defenders. But instead of the easy victory they expected, their energy weapons splashed harmlessly against shimmering barriers. Old Man Jenkins cackled with glee. "Ha! Looky there. Sarah's energy dispersal fields work like a charm. The invasion begins." Indeed, the hastily constructed energy dispersal fields, cobbled together from modified microwave emitters and old TV antennas, were holding. Sarah Chen pumped her fist in the air, her face a mixture of surprise and triumph. "It worked. It actually worked," she shouted, her voice barely audible over the din of battle. The Voidborn paused, their glowing eyes flickering in what might have been confusion. This was not how conquests usually went for them. Their leader, a particularly large specimen with pulsing cybernetic enhancements, stepped forward. "Primitive beings," its voice boomed, somehow understood despite the alien language. "Your resistance is futile. Surrender now, and your suffering will be minimized." Mayor Thompson, who had insisted on being on the front lines, "Can't ask my people to do what I won't do myself," stepped forward. His voice shook slightly, but his words were clear and defiant. "Now you listen here, you overgrown circuit board," he said, pointing a trembling finger at the Voidborn leader. "This here's Rustville. We may not look like much, but we've survived dust storms, droughts, and economic collapse. We're not about to roll over for some galactic bullies, so you can take your surrender and shove it where the sun don't shine." A cheer went up from the Rustville defenders. The mayor's words, corny as they might have been, ignited a fire in their hearts. This was their home, their planet, and by God, they were going to fight for it. The Voidborn leader's eyes flashed dangerously. With a gesture, it commanded its forces to attack. The air filled with the scream of energy weapons and the acrid smell of ozone. But Rustville was ready. Elias and his team had spent days preparing, and now their inventions sprang to life. Junkyard cars, retrofitted with makeshift armor and energy weapons, roared to life. Old farming equipment, repurposed into mobile shield generators, deployed protective bubbles over groups of defenders. Elias himself was in the thick of it, his welder pistol spitting bolts of energy that sent Voidborn reeling. Zephyr flitted from defender to defender, its advanced AI interfacing with their cobbled-together tech, enhancing its effectiveness far beyond what should have been possible. The battle raged for hours, the night sky lit by the flash of energy weapons and the glow of shields. The Voidborn pressed their attack relentlessly, but for every foot they advanced, They paid in broken machines and disabled warriors. As dawn broke, painting the sky in hues of pink and gold, the Voidborn finally fell back. Their neat formations were in disarray. Their confident advance turned into a grudging retreat. The defenders of Rustville, battered and exhausted but unbroken, watched as the alien ships took off, disappearing into the morning sky. A ragged cheer went up from the town. They had done it. They had faced the most advanced military force in the galaxy and held their ground. Elias slumped against a burned-out car, his welder pistol's power cell completely drained. Zephyr hovered nearby, its holographic face beaming with pride. "You did it, Elias. You all did it. I've never seen anything like it." Elias managed a tired smile. "We just did what we had to do, but they'll be back, won't they?" Zephyr's expression turned serious. "Yes, this was merely their first wave. The Voidborn do not take defeat lightly. They will return, and in greater numbers." Mayor Thompson limped over, his once crisp shirt now torn and soot-stained. "Then we'll be ready for them," he said, his voice hoarse but determined. "Rustville stood against everything the world's thrown at us. We're not about to let some space invaders be the ones to take us down." As the sun rose fully, the people of Rustville began to assess the damage and prepare for the next assault. The junkyard, once a graveyard for old machines, became a hive of activity as every piece of scrap was evaluated for its potential as a weapon or shield. Sarah Chen and her students pored over data collected during the battle, looking for weaknesses in the Voidborn's technology. Old Man Jenkins regaled anyone who would listen with tales of his war days, drawing increasingly improbable parallels between fighting Nasus and repelling alien invaders. And in the center of it all was Elias, working tirelessly to improve their defenses. His hands flew over alien tech and Earth junk alike, melding them into weapons and shields that had never existed before. Zephyr was a constant presence, offering guidance and information, but it was Elias's human ingenuity that truly brought their creations to life. As the day wore on, news began to trickle in from the outside world. The Voidborn hadn't just attacked Rustville. Their invasion was global, but something incredible was happening. All over the world, in small towns and big cities alike, humanity was fighting back. The Voidborn's superior technology was being countered by human resourcefulness and determination. A message came through on the emergency broadcast system, crackling with static but clear in its intent. "To all version 2 of 4, the invasion begins," continued. A message came through on the emergency broadcast system, crackling with static but clear in its intent. "To all defenders of Earth, hold the line. You are not alone. Humanity stands united against this threat. Share your innovations, your victories. Together, we will prevail." The message brought a renewed sense of purpose for Rustville. They weren't just fighting for their town anymore. They were part of a global resistance. Elias felt a swell of pride, knowing that the techniques and technologies they'd developed might be helping people all around the world. As night fell once again, the tension in Rustville was palpable. Everyone knew the Voidborn would return, and this time they'd be prepared for Rustville's tricks. But Elias had a plan. "Zephyr," he said, hunched over a workbench strewn with alien tech and Earth components, "you said the Voidborn rely heavily on their advanced systems, right? What if we could turn that against them?" Zephyr's holographic eyes widened. "What do you have in mind, Elias?" Elias held up a device that looked like a cross between a satellite dish and a disco ball. "This," he said with a grim smile, "is what I call the chaos transmitter. It'll send out a burst of randomized energy patterns. To their advanced sensors, it'll be like sensory overload. They won't be able to tell what's a threat and what's just noise." Sarah Chen, who had been listening nearby, chimed in. "And if we couple that with some good old-fashioned misdirection." She trailed off, a mischievous glint in her eye. As if on cue, the alarms blared once again. The Voidborn were returning, and in far greater numbers than before. Their ships darkened the sky, a terrifying armada that seemed to stretch from horizon to horizon. But Rustville was ready. As the Voidborn ships began their descent, Elias activated the Chaos Transmitter. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The neat formation of the Voidborn fleet dissolved into chaos. Ships veered wildly, their sensors overwhelmed by the barrage of confusing signals. And then Sarah's plan kicked in. All across the outskirts of Rustville, holographic projectors, hastily repurposed from the high school's audio-visual equipment, sprang to life. Suddenly, the Voidborn weren't facing one small town, but what appeared to be a massive, heavily fortified base bristling with weapons. The Voidborn hesitated, their well-laid plans thrown into disarray. And in that moment of hesitation, Rustville struck. Elias led the charge, his welder pistol now upgraded into a full-fledged energy rifle. Zephyr flew beside him, its advanced AI interfacing with Rustville's cobbled-together tech, turning junkyard scrap into a formidable defense network. The battle that followed was like nothing Earth had ever seen. Voidborn energy weapons clashed with human ingenuity. For every advanced tactic the aliens employed, the defenders of Rustville had an unpredictable countermeasure. Old Man Jenkins led a squad of senior citizens, their mobility scooters outfitted with shield generators, zipping through the battlefield with surprising agility. Sarah Chen coordinated from the command center, her deep understanding of physics allowing her to predict and counter the Voidborn's movements. And through it all, Elias and Zephyr worked in perfect sync, man and machine united in defense of Earth. They moved from hotspot to hotspot, Elias's intuitive understanding of machinery complemented by Zephyr's advanced knowledge. As the battle reached its peak, with the fate of not just Rustville, but possibly the entire Earth hanging in the balance, Elias found himself face to face with the Voidborn leader. The alien towered over him, its cybernetic enhancements humming with deadly energy. "Why do you resist?" the Voidborn leader asked, its voice a harsh electronic buzz. "Your technology is primitive, your resources limited. You cannot hope to defeat us." Elias stood his ground, his rifle aimed steadily at the alien's chest. "That's where you're wrong," he said, his voice firm despite his exhaustion. "Our greatest resource isn't our technology. It's our spirit, our determination, our ability to look at a problem from angles you'd never consider." The Voidborn leader tilted its head, an almost human gesture of confusion. "Illogical. Spirit does not win battles. Determination does not overcome superior firepower." Elias allowed himself a small smile. "Maybe not where you come from, but here on Earth, the most amazing things happen when we're backed into a corner. We innovate, we adapt, we overcome." As if to prove his point, at that very moment, Sarah Chen's voice crackled over the comms. "Elias, the Chaos Transmitter. We've figured out how to focus it. We can target their command ships." The Voidborn leader's eyes widened as it realized the implications. But it was too late. All across the battlefield, the tide began to turn. The once unstoppable Voidborn war machine began to sputter and fail as the focused Chaos Transmitter wreaked havoc on their systems. Elias watched as confusion, and then something akin to fear spread across the Voidborn leader's face. For the first time, perhaps in their entire existence, the Voidborn were facing an enemy they couldn't simply overwhelm with superior technology. As the sun began to rise on the third day of battle, the Voidborn did something unprecedented. They retreated, not just from Rustville, but from Earth entirely. Their mighty armada, now in disarray, fled back into the depths of space. The defenders of Rustville, battered and exhausted but undefeated, watched in awe as the alien ships disappeared from view. For a moment, there was silence. Then, as the realization of what they'd accomplished sank in, a cheer went up. It started in Rustville, but soon reports came in from all over the world. Humanity had stood its ground. Earth was saved. Elias slumped to the ground, the adrenaline of battle finally wearing off. Zephyr hovered nearby, its holographic face beaming with pride. "You did it, Elias," the alien AI said. "You and all of humanity. You've done what no other species has managed. You've defeated the Voidborn." Elias looked up at his friend, a tired smile on his face. "We did it together, Zephyr. All of us, human and AI, working as one." As the people of Rustville began to emerge from their shelters, blinking in the sunlight of a world forever changed, Elias knew that this was just the beginning. Humanity had proven itself on a galactic stage. The stars, once distant and unreachable, now seemed like a new frontier to explore. The simple mechanic from a dusty, forgotten town had sparked a revolution that would echo across the cosmos. And as Elias looked up at the sky, no longer a barrier but a beckoning road, he couldn't help but wonder what incredible adventures awaited humanity among the stars. Part 4. Turning the Tide. In the days following the Voidborn's retreat, Rustville became the epicenter of a global phenomenon. News crews from around the world descended upon the small town, eager to tell the story of how a group of ordinary people had turned the tide against an alien invasion. Elias found himself thrust into the spotlight, a role he was distinctly uncomfortable with. Reporters clamored for interviews, scientists begged to examine his inventions, and government officials arrived in sleek black cars, their sunglasses hiding calculating eyes. "I don't like this, Zephyr," Elias muttered as he watched another news van pull into town. "We did what we had to do. Why can't they just let us get back to normal?" Zephyr's holographic form shimmered beside him. "I'm afraid, Elias, that normal no longer exists. Your actions here have changed the course of human history. The galaxy now knows of Earth's potential." And indeed, the changes were already becoming apparent. The technology developed in Rustville during the invasion was being replicated and improved upon all over the world. Sarah Chen had been offered a position at CERN. Her insights into particle physics, gained from studying voidborn weapons, promising to revolutionize Earth's understanding of the universe. Even Old Man Jenkins found himself in demand, his unorthodox tactics during the battle becoming the subject of study at military academies worldwide. "Never thought I'd be teaching generals how to fight," he chuckled, polishing his medals, both old and newly awarded, with pride. But for Elias, the most significant change came in the form of a visit from the United Earth Defense Council, a hastily formed global organization tasked with preparing humanity for its new place in the galactic community. Admiral Helena Ortiz, a stern-faced woman with eyes that seemed to see right through you, stood in Elias's workshop, examining his inventions with keen interest. "Mr. Gerhardt," she said, her voice crisp and authoritative, "I'll be blunt. Earth needs you. The Voidborn have been driven back, but they're not defeated. And now that we know what's out there," she gestured vaguely at the sky. Elias frowned. "With all due respect, Admiral, I'm just a mechanic. I did what I had to do to protect my home. I'm not a soldier or a scientist." Elias stood in the massive hangar, staring up at the sleek vessel. It was a far cry from the junkers he used to fix in his workshop, but he could see echoes of his own designs in its construction. "She's beautiful, isn't she?" Admiral Ortiz said, coming to stand beside him. And to think, none of this would have been possible without a mechanic from a small town who decided to fix a broken robot. Elias chuckled. "I still can't quite believe it myself. So, what's next?" Admiral Ortiz smiled, a rare expression on her usually serious face. "That's up to you, Mr. Gerhardt. This ship needs a chief engineer, someone who can think on their feet when they're millions of light years from home." Interested? Elias felt a thrill of excitement run through him. The stars, once so distant, were now within reach. He looked at Zephyr, his faithful companion through all of this. "What do you say, Zephyr? Ready for another adventure?" Zephyr's holographic form seemed to glow brighter. "I thought you'd never ask, Elias. The galaxy awaits." As they prepared for humanity's first steps into the wider galaxy, Elias couldn't help but reflect on how far they'd come. From a dusty workshop in a forgotten town to the brink of interstellar travel, it was a journey he never could have imagined, but one he was profoundly grateful for. The simple mechanic who had sparked a revolution was about to embark on humanity's greatest adventure yet, and as the starship's engines hummed to life, Elias Gerard, once just a small-town mechanic, now Earth's ambassador to the stars, knew that the best was yet to come. Admiral Ortiz's expression softened slightly. "That's precisely why we need you, Mr. Gerard. You see solutions where others see only problems. You take the impossible and make it possible. We're not asking you to be a soldier. We're asking you to be what you are, an innovator." Zephyr, who had been quietly observing, chimed in. "She's right, Elias. Your skills, combined with the knowledge I can provide about galactic technology, you could help prepare Earth for whatever comes next." Elias looked around his workshop, at the familiar tools and the alien tech now integrated seamlessly into his world. He thought of the battle, of the pride he felt in protecting his home. Then he thought bigger, of Earth, of humanity, of a future among the stars. "All right," he said finally, extending his hand to the Admiral. "I'm in. But I have some conditions." Over the next few months, Elias found himself at the heart of Earth's technological revolution. The old junkyard in Rustville was transformed into a cutting-edge research facility, where scientists and engineers from around the world worked alongside the locals who had fought in the invasion. Elias's workshop became a hub of innovation, where Earth tech and salvaged void-borne technology were combined in ways neither species had ever imagined. The Chaos Transmitter was refined into a planetary defense system. The makeshift energy weapons were developed into clean, efficient power sources. But perhaps the most significant development came from an unexpected source. Mayor Thompson, inspired by how the people of Rustville had come together during the invasion, proposed a global network of small, adaptable defense units. "Big armies are all well and good," he argued, "but it was small-town ingenuity that saved us. We need to keep that spirit alive." The idea took root, and soon, communities around the world were forming their own defense and innovation groups, sharing ideas and technologies in a global network of human ingenuity. As Earth's defenses grew stronger and its technology more advanced, humanity began to look outward. The first human faster-than-light ship, reverse-engineered from void-borne tech and improved upon by Earth scientists, was nearing completion. A new dawn. The Starship Horizon cut through the fabric of space-time, its faster-than-light engines humming with a power that still awed Elias, even after months of travel. From his position at the engineering console, he watched the swirling patterns of hyperspace, marveling at how far they'd come. Preparing to exit FTL, Chief, came the voice of Lieutenant Yuki Tanaka, their expert pilot. "We're approaching the coordinates provided by the Galactic Concord." Elias nodded, his hands dancing over the controls as he prepared the ship's systems for the transition back to normal space. Beside him, Zephyr's holographic form shimmered with excitement. "This is it, Elias," the AI said, its melodious voice tinged with anticipation. "Humanity's first contact with the Galactic Concord. Are you ready?" Elias chuckled, though there was a nervous edge to it. "Ready as I'll ever be, I suppose. Still can't quite believe they chose me for this." "Who better?" Zephyr replied. "You represent the best of humanity. Resourcefulness, adaptability, and an unyielding spirit. The Concord will see in you what I saw back in Rustville." Before Elias could respond, the ship shuddered slightly as it dropped out of FTL. The swirling patterns of hyperspace faded away, replaced by a breathtaking view that drew gasps from everyone on the bridge. Before them hung a massive space station, its design an organic blend of technology and artistry. It seemed to shimmer in the light of the nearby star, its surface alive with moving patterns that Elias suspected were some form of advanced energy field. "Horizon, this is Concord Station Harmony," a voice crackled over the comms, speaking perfect English. "We've been expecting you." Welcome to the heart of galactic civilization. As the horizon docked with the station, Elias felt a mix of emotions: excitement, nervousness, and a profound sense of responsibility. He was about to become the first human to set foot on a Concorde station, to represent Earth to a galaxy full of advanced civilizations. The airlock cycled, and Elias stepped through, Zephyr hovering at his side. They were greeted by a delegation of beings so diverse that Elias's mind struggled to process what he was seeing. Beings of light, crystalline entities, and creatures that seemed to shift form as he watched. All stood before him, radiating a sense of welcome. A being stepped forward, humanoid in shape, but with skin that shimmered like the surface of a soap bubble. When it spoke, its voice seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. Elias Gerhard of Earth, Zephyr of the Concorde, welcome. I am Xylos, speaker for the Concorde Council. We have been eagerly awaiting this moment. Elias cleared his throat, suddenly acutely aware that he was just a mechanic from a small town, now standing in the heart of an advanced galactic civilization. But then he remembered everything he and humanity had overcome, and he stood a little straighter. On behalf of Earth and all of humanity, I bring greetings, he said, his voice steady. We come in peace and in hope of friendship. Xylos's form rippled in what Elias guessed was a smile. And friendship you shall have. Your victory over the Voidborn has resonated across the galaxy. Many thought Earth too primitive to resist, but you proved them wrong. You showed innovation, courage, and a unique perspective that the Concorde values highly. As they walked through the station, Xylos explained the purpose of the Galactic Concorde, a coalition of spacefaring races dedicated to peace, progress, and mutual defense. The Voidborn,